This conference will now be recorded.
All right, as always, everything that we're going to be talking about is for educational purposes only. Nothing is intended as any type of investment advice. All right, so I just want to explain real quick what I was saying in the chat room. And believe me, I'm very, very well versed in how to use the chat room. But so we talk about buying all the time. And right now, guys, do we think that this is buying in Facebook? Okay, what are these green prints that we see coming into Facebook right now? What would they logically be, I guess is the best way that I can put it, when we're coming back in? Yeah, you know what? When the stock is coming down this much, remember, I don't care about buying that comes into a stock like this, especially when we have such a big trend that we've been coming back down on. And certainly because I know that at 153 and 152, we also have some really good selling that came into it. So we know there's going to be covering. Guys, think about it. All right, right now the stock has moved from a high of 158.66 down to a low of 153.61 at this exact moment. That's $5.05 of a total move from top to bottom. Do you think people are going to take some profit at points during this? And keep in mind as well, if you have a huge position in Facebook and your price target's 150, isn't it going to make sense that people are going to be taking off some profit? I mean, just think about it. So what I care about on an extended move, I don't care about seeing ask prints. Okay, ask prints don't bother me whatsoever. I know. I mean, I personally would do the same thing. So I don't care. What I care about is new selling. Remember, every time a stock is in a big trend like this, and I know we talk about, follow the trend, don't buck the trend, trend is your friend, and that whole saying that everyone always talks about. It's very true, because right now, do you think many market makers right up here at this one, we'll call it whatever number you want, 158. Do you think many market makers went in at 158 long today? Would that make much sense as, as a market maker coming back in at 158 long? No, of course not. Remember, our main, thought process is that a market maker is always going to have to make their money. And at this point, it doesn't make any sense. So I don't care about these prints, especially because they're not any controlling prints. Yeah, this guy covered a big part of their position. That's fine. Okay, even if they're going buying, that's fine too. If the stock is going to pull up, what I care about is new selling. All right, because we know where the stock needs to go overall. The prints have told us that. So we're going to talk about SQ in a minute. And I understand the stocks have been going back up a little bit, but it doesn't mean anything. Remember, we don't play the movement, we play the actual prints themselves. So talking about Facebook coming in, I don't know if it's going to let me go back. Okay, but if we come over here and you can see, okay, the new selling coming into 154 is way more important to me than any of this buying that we see here, because guess what? It's people that are mostly, they'd be crazy not to be covering some part of their positions. So at the end of the day, you can see it in 300,000 at 155. 49, but I just care about new selling, and that's the reason that I put it out there, because buying isn't buying unless the stock is going up and it's giving us controlling prints. On this point within the day, I have to assume that it's going to be covering. All right. So Facebook, obviously, we got prints at 154. We know there's prints at 153. We know there's bid prints at 152. We know that there's more room. So we are going to keep Facebook on our list. It looks like the market is probably just selling off, because I'm looking at almost all of the everyday stocks. It's showing almost the same exact thing. Let's talk about SQ for a second. So SQ was moving down. We got prints that came in at the 75 level, and it just didn't pull back enough for us to, our expectations. Our expectations had to be at least 50 cents from those sell prints. We had 75. So when we came back down to the 74, we got more new selling, which told us that the stock is going to have to pull back up. And remember, 75 is a big psychological level. So the fact that it got all the way down to 74 on selling, essentially at 74.50 and 74 and 75, told us it had to come back up. So I know I had to go, I lay down for a little bit because I'm still not feeling too great, but we came right back up. I mean, you ended up getting a little trigger right here that came in. Was it the best trade? No, not really. The rest of it, remember, it's in noon, so there's not a ton going on there. But look what it did. Came right back up to that 75.50 point. It pulled back where it should, and then we ended up getting a trigger that came right back down. Now, it didn't give us a great trigger until pretty much right here, which even that wasn't a great trigger. Remember, during these times of the day, it's not the best trading time. But remember, in SQ, does everyone remember what the lowest selling in SQ is? because there's a whole bunch of prints at a lower point. Does everyone remember what it is? Yeah, we have prints down there at 65. All right, and I talked to you guys. Actually, did I talk to you about this morning? I don't even remember. These days have been because I haven't really been here. But we had this kind of staircase pattern. As this thing has been going back up, it hasn't really been going up on anything substantial to show us that. So we know we still have selling down here. And look what happens every time we keep coming to this 74. See how right here, we just got new selling. And I want you to think about this. I know we talked about this in class a whole bunch. All right. But when we look over here, 65, yeah, I know it, you know what, it's a far point away. Remember, the best, if you're going to take a longer term position, and those of you, the guys that are trading options, should think about this a lot. When you know a stock goes way further away from where the stock has to go, remember, how often since I've came and ATC has came to you guys from Rocket Stocks, when was the last time the prints didn't do what they were supposed to and they just completely ended and that was it, just never happened? Exactly. You're talking about, I don't have one. Okay, the one that you could the only one that I could think you could argue, remember, I'm not, always 100% right on what's going to happen, well, overall, but even PYPL, those prints at 93, yeah, they're going to come back above at some point in time, but they actually did. It only moved 50 cents though. So we went to 93.50. We actually went above the prints. It's just not as much as we would have expected, and that's going to happen sometimes. But when we come over here and we look at that, if you're going to take a position in a stock, especially for a longer term play, one of your best strategies you could use is a stock that goes so far away from where it has to go. Okay, remember Facebook. Everyone was ready to crucify me that Facebook, jumped up $10 over a few days on low volume. Guys, what ended up happening to Facebook? When everyone else out there, and this has happened so many times, everyone else out there was against me and said that Facebook had to go up. People calling 200 price targets in Facebook because it moved up on nothing. Guys, well, where's Facebook right now? What price is Facebook at? And we still have selling prints that come back down, still coming back into it. They got happen when well, that's exactly what it is. SQ, yeah, jumped up a whole bunch. But remember, when we have a huge amount of selling consistently over a level by level by level by level, what does that mean for the pullback we're going to expect in the stock? Yeah, we're going to get a big pullback. That's great, but after that big pullback, you got to remember, when a stock's $10 away from where it has to go, when it starts going back towards there, it's going to happen on a vengeance, and you're going to see these big down days like we're seeing coming into there right now. SQ's another one. Everyone thought SQ, and don't get me wrong, I'm conflicted in SQ with two things. Now, I'm not conflicted in where it has to go because I'm always going to follow the prints. I could give a shit about what my opinion or anyone else's opinion, but SQ is a good company. So at the end of the day, do I think SQ is going to stay down here forever? No, I don't. But at the same time, I know one thing, and the one thing that I do know is that market makers are going to have to make their money. So when a stock keeps going back up, I don't care what anyone says, what they think. You want to go against me, that's great, but it always ends up coming back. So just, you know what, keep that in mind. So we're coming back down, and is it shocking right now that we just got more sell prints that came in at 74 right now? I mean, this guy right now, 15,500 shares. And this person, we're going to look at this as a burst, but we were looking at the actual prints. So let's talk about this for a second. And this is, I kind of got off topic, but 74.05. Guys, is 74 a psychological number? I want you to think about something for a second. It is, right? So a psychological number, or the number 74, can we almost guarantee that that's going to be some type of support level? So like, if, for instance, if you're going to get into this position, do you think it would be smarter for you to wait for it to break 74 or get into it above that 74 level? Which one would be smarter overall? Now, if you know what's going to happen, you know what's going to happen. That's one thing. But just think about it. Because almost guaranteed when we come to a whole number, it's going to act as something. So for somebody to come out here, and if you look at 74.05, it's not a huge position, but you have 2,900, 2,000, 1,000, 22, and 11. Do you think this guy knows it's going to break 74 right here? That got into it right above the 74 level. If we had to sit there and think, this guy's position right there, they're not stupid. They didn't just add selling into right above 74 for no reason. They know what they're going to do. If anything, we talk about difficulty of trade. That's a very ballsy trade to make, because the higher probability trade would be, if you're going to get in at 74, you might as well wait. If you're going to get in 5 cents above it, you might as well wait for, what's 5 cents in the scheme of things, for it to show that it actually is going to break that 74. So when I see positions like that, I look at that person specifically. Remember, all these prints are a story. They're not just numbers, okay? The numbers are very important, and we have to follow the rules that go with them. But when I see something like that, this guy's not going to be wrong, because you know what? Think about it. If you're a market maker, okay, and you get in at 74.05 and you work at Goldman Sachs, and then the stock bounces off 74 and comes back up, what do you think the boss is going to say? What do you think your boss is going to say to you when that happens? And we can leave out the profanity, or we don't. You exactly buy. Goodbye. What are you, an idiot? You couldn't have waited 75. So you better be right when something like that comes back into it. And remember, SQ is a $74 stock at that point. This isn't, a piece of, this isn't chump change of how much money this person put into this. So even though, and remember, at SQ as well, look at the orders. The orders are very thin. So this is a big position that's coming back into it. Whenever I see that, I always think about who's behind the other computer, what's behind that person. And if this guy is working for somebody and this stock does not break that 74 level, he's going to be in a lot of trouble. So we know in the 74 it needs to pull up a little bit more before we end up coming back down. I didn't even get a chance to really scan much because I've just been kind of following Facebook and SQ. But let's take a look. Let's see if let's talk about PTI for a second. So PTI, just an absolutely phenomenal trade. Who was able to get this? I know a lot of you guys were able to make money on it, and it was clockwork. Okay, we started at 750, but then we got prints at our price target started when it was coming up to 750. We sat there at that 7 level, just got hit and hit and hit and hit. We ended up moving up to the 8. But remember, the 8 got beautiful buying. We got a beautiful pullback that came back into it right about here. And then we got another beautiful trigger that came back into it. Yes, and I'll post a recording as soon as we're done. But coming up to that 850 level, we definitely, I'm going to have to assume that we got buying. And I could look, if it doesn't show me here, I can look back on my other one and it will show everything. Hold on. Let me see exactly what happened at 850, or technically 9. Let's take a look. All right, so we got some prints at 8. So as we were coming back down, we got prints at 8. Let's see what we got coming into that 9 level. Or as someone could just tell me, and then that would be a lot easier, but I can just scroll back all the way. It's kind of hard to trade with a fever. End up becoming senile. Okay, 9. Okay, thank you, Nitesh. I appreciate it. Okay, so we have right there 850 and 9. We have on the ask, and then a little bit of selling, which is to be expected because on this big pullback, somebody's going to be making money coming back on there. So we still have room coming in. PTI is going to stay on our list as well. I mean, it was just overall such a beautiful trade this morning. Probably by far the best one that we had out there because it just showed exactly what it had to do. So we're going to continue to watch this one. Look at this print line right here, 751, 107,000 shares. So we can see, I mean, usually when you see something like this, you see the volume breakouts that come back into a level, and as it pushes up from 850 and 9, more than likely because of the uptrend, we end up we end up seeing, ask prints. It's very hard to print on the bid when the stock is actually moving towards that upside, especially on volume like that. So to take a look at here, 750, it looks like we're going to have a little bit more room towards that downside, but there's definitely money that's sitting back up on top of it. And then YECO was actually a really easy trade. And I said this, and I put this in the chat room, and if you guys didn't see it, go back. But when we were coming up to this 13 level, we got one print. And we talked about this in our print workshop, but if we look over here at the orders, one print over that, can anyone right now go out here and buy on the ask 1,000 shares? Can any of you guys do that right this second? And obviously the answer is no. 263, 500, there's just no orders there. So when you get one print for, the 1,500, 2,000, that's going to affect the stock because the difficulty of trade is definitely there. So we ended up getting a quick pullback, and this baby just ran. This was actually a very easy trade to take coming in. The only thing that's hard about it is the fact that the orders are very thin. You just got to, have a well-placed limit order coming back in. But it ended up being a beautiful trade this morning. TXT, we knew that this morning all it had was selling, but it pretty much all it had was selling, at that 60 level. So we ended up pulling back up above, and it's coming back below. But it was just the reason it was on my side list, and the biggest problem with it was the volume. We knew it was going to be a hard stock to actually be able to day trade just based off the variables we saw. So I really didn't watch it much at all. And then HC just it had some stuff there, but it was just another one because it was on our side list because it just showed too much of a mix between there, and it pretty much did that exact same thing. So let's take a look at what we got going on our scanners. PTI we already talked about. CCCL was another one that was a really good trade. But once it gets halted a few times, I stray away. I go to find something else because I'm not a big fan of any stock that just continuously gets halted. So I ended up selling right around this 6 level after the second time that it got halted, and it ended up making another move back up, which was beautiful. I wasn't watching though at that point. I'm going to move on to something that's a lot better. Do you do overnight swings? Sometimes, if I know something to a really high probability, I will, but it's not consistent. I'm 90% of the money that I make is going to be through day trading, but every once in a while I do take some swing trades. So CCCL is just completely done for the day, not seeing anything there. ECYT we know is a buyout, just absolute garbage, nothing for us to do. SNES, Quantrade, nothing there for us either. TVIX, ETF, but the ETFs are going to be moving when the market's moving like this, just not something that I'm going to be focusing on. PTIE, absolutely nothing. And then EGC, I don't see anything. And JMU, I just couldn't get behind the volume at any point during where this trade coming in, so I didn't end up trading that at all. Moving over to our losers side of things, you can see the list is just bleak. I mean, there's just not well, the percentage losers, but everything else is just the volume is very low. So we're going to be paying attention pretty much to PTIE and then our everyday stocks, our SQs, our Apples, our Facebooks, our Twitters, our whatever. Any stock that's kind of name brand is what we're going to end up focusing on. Should we expect Facebook to recover a bit before the real move? So the real move is happening right this second. We have selling that's coming back into it. The only way that it's going to recover is it's going to have to show us that. So basically when a stock recovers, what we look for is you have selling, which tells, and right now in this case, Facebook tells us that they're selling. All right. So what happens with that selling is when we get a pullback that starts coming back up to it, it tells us it's going to recover we start to see buying. So what people are doing is they're going to make money on the pull up from selling, but the buying we see coming in tells us that pull up is going to be extended. I have not seen that today. I have not seen that pretty much anywhere in the stocks that we have so far. Okay. Once again, you do have to figure that the market is taking a pretty big hit today, or I don't even know if it is. I just know that all the name brand stocks are coming back down. I don't really follow the market, but we have to understand that sometimes you get that the next day they try to bring it up, but most of the time it's on low volume. So could it could. Do I think it's going to hit 150 today? I'm not very confident in that whatsoever because of the fact, it's already at $5.05 if we go over Facebook right now, and if let's go there. And if we come over here, you can see it's already at now it's at $5.38. So in order for it to get to 150 today, you're talking about a lot more of a range, and that is a lot for this to happen in the afternoon. Remember, you have to go based off statistics. Everything I do is based off of percentage chance of what we normally see happen. We don't follow the exception is not what we make our money off of day in, day out. It's the rules that we do. So for our afternoons have not shown us gigantic, huge running moves. So my expectations of that happening today are not very high. So I wouldn't be shocked to see a pull up come in. Just remember, you don't want to see more buying coming in as the stock is pulling up. Just when the stock's going up, as long as it's not showing that there's market makers that are going to be trying to make money on its way back up, it's not going to last. All right, guys, anything else out there that I missed? Anything else that we got? all I see is selling everywhere. And Nitesh, I couldn't agree with you anymore. I mean, that's it. It's literally been selling after selling after selling after selling. Every time, I mean, we look at a stock like this, all these pull-ups are coming from all that selling. All right, guys. So I'll put out a list in the chat room, and I'll talk to everyone in there. Happy trading.